me know what's up. If you're on out here, come on. I just came in live and in color, live and in color, live and in color. Testing one, testing two, testing three. In the place to be. What you want to do, what you want to feel, what you want to say. Right here, right here. And I like this beef better. The Shaq against Shannon. I love it. I love it. Because I tired of Shannon Sharp. And he went deep in on Shaq in ways that, it's absurd. It's really absurd on his part. But I like how Shaq called him out, put it there on him. Now, some people want to say that because Shannon is big in TV because of the interview, but he's not bigger than Shaq was overall. Shaq had his own shoes. Shaq made commercials. Shaq had an all-around career, inside and out, before Shannon decided to tap dance on the farm. Let's keep it 100. I'm going to do a little freestyle on this. In case you forgot, 30 years ago, Shaquille O'Neal had a rap career, had a platinum album and 2 or 3 gold records. Did guest appearances on records. Shannon Sharp's post-NFL career and everything got to a bumpy start in 2010 when he's on CBS, and it took some years before he relocated with Skip Bayless. Now, Shaq joined Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kennedy Smith, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith, and he had other endeavors. He did movies too. So, when people want to go in on it because of a few big interviews that Shannon Sharp has had, which he has had, but let's not kid ourselves. Shaq was a focal point. Shannon Sharp never hit he never hit that switch. Now you can make the case they bought and paid off by the man on different plantations. I'll give you that. But the difference is that Shaq had his thing out there. He was actually dominated what he did. He made the big man more palatable. Probably the first big that got really popular, more so than even Kareem. Chamberlain's athleticism and prowess was respected, but Shaq went mainstream in ways. So, but anyway, this is just hilarious that when I see, because Shannon be piling on. And it is predictable and it's embarrassing, It really is. It's pretty bad. Pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. You see these things going on and you just kind of like, corporate America. But this beef is real, though. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. See somebody coming around. I'm just going to see if anybody going to jump in and say something. See a couple of heads, but I don't know if anybody's posting yet. But just so you know, if people don't come on and click, I won't going to be on too long. I'll be on until I see somebody coming. Giving people at least 10 minutes to come on and click. I don't want to see empty heads and no responses. What's up? What's up? Good to see that you came through. I'm sure you know I'm talking about Shaq and Shannon Sharp, and that's been the big thing. Definitely had a take about that. So, a lot to say about that. Team Shaq all the way on it, though. Well, yeah, that actually has been brewing for a moment. Shannon has had a lot to say about Shaq. Shaq ain't say nothing. And so finally, well, yeah, because it's the plantation. You got to remember there's a lot of money involved. You got two all time great athletes in their respective sports, Hall of Famers, etc. And of course, the massa wants to have a statement about them. I mean, Shannon Sharp is the hottest so-called interviewer going right now, and Shaq is Shaquille O'Neal. So you know when you put those two, that's a real intriguing bat. That's more intriguing than Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I'm Team Shaq, of course, on this, of course. Shannon been running his mouth too much, and he gets all tummy hurt when someone calls him out. I said going in, Shaq was probably because of the way they've been riding Jokic, and Shaq said what he said, but he did give SGA. He been saying SGA. He never said otherwise, you know. But when people come at him and say, "Oh, he's worried," he's not worried about Jokic. What Shannon Sharp failed to realize, and a lot of people fail to get, the MVP voting has been political. It's not always about the best player on the best team. Oh yeah, I had to light her behind up. You saw what I said. Butter up, and then boom. And it couldn't happen to a more deserving guy. Oh Vivek. Oh Vivek. He thought he was grinning, and she said, I'm glad you're not black. And he was all excited and cheesing. And then when she said, but I'm not voting for no Indian, I said, ooh. And then you saw that smile get broke down. That's what his racist behind get. He was all excited. And then she was like, I can't get with you. So I thought it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Oh, yeah. I don't know who you are, so you can't be asking me my age and where I'm from and all that, and you ain't even introduce yourself, so I don't know who you is. I don't do that. So you have to reintroduce yourself. Oh, well, I'm just gonna assume you're a troll. Um, what I loved about the Vivek thing is because we always talk about it with black folks, but the non-blacks who try to act like they, got the delusion for inclusion, and then when they get buttered up and boom, it's like, oh, and I love it. I love it. See, Ann Coulter's one of them old bigots, but she lets it be known she don't care for no black folks. She likes some that black. She likes some brothers, but she don't love them. You know what I mean? So that's what happened. This was perfection. That thing snapped in his face like dynamite. And them pearly white teeth turned green. So I cracked up. That was perfection. Yeah. Which ones did you like? What's up? Give me your feedback. I covered the Boston Cleveland, and I told you about them Celtics. You know, the Celtics are funny. At least you being a Laker fan, when you lose, you don't hit like, oh, that's our season. The Celtic fans are like, them Boston fans are like that. They always do, don't they? They always do. At home, too. It's like clockwork. And they get house, too. It's like they forget to play defense. I told you I can't trust that law firm. Can't trust them. Can't trust them. And I'm going to tell you something. If that series goes 6 or 7 games, they could be in trouble. Because one thing about Donovan Mitchell, he can score. I think Boston should win, but if they fool around and take them Turkish light and don't let Garland get hot, all it takes is a couple of them to believe in themselves. Because Donovan can score almost with the best of them. I'm telling you, you know. And I know how good I've said. I said that Donovan is the dude I'd want on the side. Yeah, well, that's not something that people usually ask, so we can stick to the conversation. If you enjoy being on here, we'll eventually get in the conversation. But I don't usually get asked age and where I'm from without knowing somebody. I don't know if that finals is going to be possible, though. I don't quite see that. I don't think the Knicks are quite finals worthy. A lot of crazy stuff would have to happen for that to happen. I'm just keeping it 100. Yeah. I mean, in a dream world, that would be interesting finals, but I don't think that's going to happen in the real world. If it was a dream world finals, it would probably be Dallas and the Knicks. That's a bold statement because Jokic is still going strong. We'll see how this turns out. I can't say. And a lot of things have to happen in place. That's a pretty bold statement. I mean, he got a good chance. If they finish Denver off quickly, you might be on to something. And if he shines and goes to the finals and wins and comes up big, that's a strong statement to consider. Yeah. I knew he was crying. I didn't want to watch that mess. That's why he got JJ there to hold his teardrops and say, "It's okay, baby." No Diddy. That's your problem. That's your team. That's your problem. I don't know about that part. You don't you If you didn't see Michael Jordan play, you got to understand something. I mean, his leaps and bounds and the mindset was a different. And you got to let that play out. Yeah, he is. But that ain't why they lost to Denver. He need to tell them the real reason why they lost to the Nuggets. The real reason is because the so-called all-around player didn't let AD shine and didn't get those others involved. And he started stat padding when he should have probably been cool with pulling a low-key 22-99 and give up about 5 or 6 points to those others. Then you win. Give AD his 40, you win. Well, the difference is this is that JJ is got white privilege. That's the elephant in the room. But he can't really get over on LeBron. LeBron's got to help him out. That thing with Vivek and Anna was different. Anna was different. They are the face of the NBA. What you talking about eventually? Best player in the NBA is Jokic. Second best player is Giannis. Luca's in the argument. What do you mean? They already are. He can get cocky with him because the narrative is that he'll bring him on board. And it's one hand watching the other. It's business maneuvering. But the JJ isn't as smart as he thinks he is because he's too sensitive, he'll get played. That's the problem that I see in the big picture. He'll get cocky with him. He ain't worried about him like that. JJ ain't done nothing yet to merit the hype. He's just a guy that's just getting his feet wet. You finally got that one right. It took him like how many games though? He benefited from great players. And if you won't hear me say it, you should watch Rasheed Wallace's show because he talk about it all the time. He clowns Doc all the time. Most of those cats clown Doc. He can't turn it on. Why not? And it's his third team get knocked out early. Clippers, Sixers, and now the Bucks. And that Bucks team spanked Indiana without Giannis and Dame. So what happened in the next game? What happened, Doc? You got Brooke Lopez. You had Chris Middleton. You had Bobby Portis. You even had Patrick Beverly. What happened, Doc? Yeah, he is. And he brought that on himself. He brought that on himself. He won't get another chance. He was too preachy. Or if you're asking what a Fisher Price, so Fisher Price is a guy who went to a finals, but in and Doc Rivers' case, won a chip, and then he sat there on that perch for like 20 years, and he lived off of it. And he either keeps getting chances, or they just let him stay with the same team. That's what the Fisher Price is. Because Jeff Fisher, when he went to the Super Bowl with the Tennessee Titans and he lost to the St. Louis Rams, he stayed there for like a decade, and his teams ended up stinking past Steve McNair. Once they got 2012, he kept getting extensions, and he sucked. But they let him get away with that one appearance. Funny thing is, too, you actually better off being a Fisher Price because look at Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel wins a ring, and he gets fired, and then his next job, I'm just saying, it don't mean what it used to. I like the Ravens. I think Lamar is underappreciated. I think Lamar is bad, but you got to get your offense together and you got to figure out what to do. I'm a Bills fan, Buffalo, but Lamar is a bad boy, and I'm glad he's shutting up Bill Poley and all them haters. But you got to figure out how to get better in the postseason. You got to. That's the only thing. That's the biggest knock against him. Oh yeah, they bad. They just don't do much in the postseason. The guy's got 2 MVPs, and I like Lamar a lot. I like Lamar a lot, but you got to do something in the postseason. I mean, you got Mahomes out here on his own island by himself. I know a lot of Raven fans. What you mean the finals? You talking football or bat? What you talking about? Um, I say the Timberwolves. I'm not buying nobody else. Best team I've seen of the 4 remaining. I think whoever wins out of Minnesota and Denver wins the chip. I'm going to stick to that. Um, I'll break down why I don't think the problem with Dallas is that they got to get the 3-4 scoring every night. And I don't think they can do that every night, but I think they are a competitive team. OKC is just missing another piece. I think they're missing a competent score on the perimeter and just a little bit more seasoning. I think they'll be a team. My problem with Boston is that they streaky and they bummy. And another thing, Ted will tell you, when we say bums around, it don't mean what the usual term. Bum behavior means if we feel like being great, if we feel like being good, but we'll settle for mediocrity. That's bummy behavior. And they're like bums to me. And they've been together for like 10 years almost. And they only got one finals appearance between Tatum and Brown. That's why I call them a law firm. But it don't really matter. They've done a whole lot, and for all that what they've got, they just come up short and they seem to be satisfied. That's why I say bummy behavior. Cleveland, look, Donovan Mitchell, you could put Donovan Mitchell on a few teams right now, it would be a flip. I don't trust him by himself and he's not an alpha. But you put him as a sidekick with some of these teams, oh yeah, it'd be a problem. The Knicks, I like Brunson a lot, but Tibbs reminds me of Mike D'Antoni. He'll burn, baby, burn you out. That 7-man rotation gonna catch up. People get hurt. He ain't learned from Derrick Rose. And if they get spended and winded against the Pacers, because they're very lucky that the Pacers don't know how to play intelligent in the paintball and play defense. Because, there's a way you punish the Knicks. Well, if they, but I don't see it as a title team. I don't. I don't. I think they're good enough to get 3 rounds, yes. I just don't see them as a title team. I think they need another piece. And I just think that they're going to be overworked. So, um, you know, I know the appeal of the Knicks to win, but I don't really see it. Not this year. Yeah, well, as far as being the main dude, and you know, if you couldn't roll it with Kyrie and Harden, what did you think was going to happen with CP3 older, Booker, or now Bradley Beal and Booker and Nurch? No, I'm not, because I'm gonna tell you why. He's a fan. They up 2-0. I clown the glasses and stuff, but I'm not gonna. Only if he becomes annoying. Now, if they lose to Indiana, I will come back on that. I would definitely I have a real good roast, but I'm not gonna say nothing right now because they're very fortunate. I'd dance if I was him too, because teams play stupid against the Knicks. You gotta pound them turkeys inside. Barbecue chicken. Philly didn't do it. Indiana can't do it. And you're sitting up here because you don't play no defense. Rick Carlisle got a good points, but the problem is they're just not finishing up. No, it's not cold where I'm at. I mean, it's comfortable. It's no, I'm not in the South. It's it's cool. Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you something. If he played for the Pacers, they'd be up 2-0. He'd have finished them 2 games. They don't have nobody to finish. That's the problem. They trust nothing they got on the court. They have no leadership. Reggie would have finished them up. They'd be up 2-0 right now. She was the better player in the family too. That's the scary part. She was better player. My former player that no one talks about. That's a great question. Um, Andrew Toney is one of my favorite players. He just got hurt for the Philadelphia 76ers. He was known as the Boston Strangler. I loved Andrew Toney. And I'm going to name guys that didn't get as much notoriety because the Irish names of those guys. Alex English is a good pick because he was the all-time leading scorer in the 80s. But I mean, if I was gonna pick a big name, it'd be Adrian Dantley because he never got his due. Anthony Mason because of his ball handling skills, like which are odd, but he'd be an interesting character today with the ball handling. Um, yeah, just some of the guys that come to mind. Um, Kevin McHale too. That octopus was something else with those hands, and there's a power for it. So there's quite a few guys I could say. Kiki would be nice today. Kiki and Danny. So as a matter of fact, those nuggets from back then would be compelling. You know, there was some interesting. There was a lot of character with those teams. A lot of character. Sidney Moncrief was someone that I liked a lot. Buck Williams. You know, Larry Nance Sr. had some crazy spring. You know, there's a lot of guys. Cummins was a bad dude. Had that behind the head, could make that shot. Downtown Fred Brown. That guy could shoot from the parking lot. He'd have been real interesting today. Calvin Murphy with the moves and the hustle and agility. Yeah, Sigma had that shot behind his head too. So yeah. Yeah. Gus Williams, Dennis Johnson, yeah. Those guys don't get talked about. Wes also don't get talked about much either. Loved his passing, his strength, agility. Jamal Wilkes too with the corner shots, stuff like that. Um 30. 30. Easily. He was a top flight because Larry Bird said he had the best offense, and that's a heck of a compliment. And Bernard would be seriously sick. He'd be a seriously sick player today. You know, the way the NBA is played today, that's a 30-point night man right there. He'd be bigger than he was. To an extent with the Kimbe, but the problem is that he'd be a scoring problem. Wilt or Kareem? Now that's a great question. That's a great question because Wilt was the standard far as offense and what have you. But Kareem Skyhook is the greatest offensive shot ever. And his dominance, he endured longer. So I think by his hook, I'm going to say Kareem. Passing was underrated. Defense was underrated. The guy was there. And his game would translate real well. He was dominant, you know. He dominated high school, college, and bad for NBA. Yeah. What made you make that discovery though? I mean, he always was. You know, like I told you before, LeBron and Steph would meet up in the finals with Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine would meet up in the slam dunk contest. That was their 3 out of 4. Remember in the mid that was their little mini run, which nobody cared about. I mean, people like Gordon. He had a strong career. McDyess was nice. He was nice. I think what also hurt him, he didn't get to the Pistons quick enough in his career because not playing with a legit upper tier team worked against him too. Undoing and then when they ran out duo. Boy, I do like how you think. Oh well, there's quite a few. There's well, let's see. Who can I pick on? Who comes to mind? Oh, there's a lot of them. I mean, if you made the top 75 list, I got a lot of them on there who I could say are overrated. I mean, Damian Lillard's definitely going to be considered overrated. He said, "Are you talking basketball, football, or baseball? Because you got to clarify, verify. Depends on what sport. If we talking football, that's a good pick right there. I can't argue against that. Because aside from that, okay. NBA, Damien is one of them. Scottie Pippen is one of them. Um, Reggie Miller would be one of them. Mm, I'll say it like this. Since I'm known for making drop the mic hot takes, every player is overrated. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you can find something wrong with their game. You can fundamentally think that the games were fixed or rigged or how everything fell into their lap. Now, no, he's not. And he wouldn't be considered top 50 by me if he was. Dwight should be one of the 75 greatest, though. I mean, let's keep it 100. He was a dominant fixture for a minute. He deserves it. Yeah, my knock with Nash is because he got great like later in his career, but there was no steroids. But it's strange because he wasn't in the argument with Gary Payton and Jason Kidd at all. Or Iverson. I'm just gonna combine guards, shooting guards, point guard. He was not that dude. And then it's all of a sudden when he got with D'Antoni, then he became, uh-oh. Well, no, Barkley was great at where he was. I don't think that extra height would have made him any better. I think his motivation would have had to make him better. You know, size only matters if you know how to utilize it to your full potential. He was a great player. He just didn't have the mindset to dominate. That's all. But he was a great talent. A 6'4" round mound. I mean, I can go there to an extent, but because he didn't expound on his skill set, I can't quite say that. I said it about Oscar Robinson. Couldn't quite say it about, but Barkley was great for what he did. No, he's overrated. Amari's overrated. He only had a small window. I liked him when he was in Phoenix and he balled out, for that window. But his game was only as good as when he was with D'Antoni and Nash and them. It didn't really go nowhere. He made himself more of a credible player post getting from high school to the NBA. And he had talented athletic, but he never took his game nowhere. I remember that game. That's when 56 points meant a big deal. It don't mean nothing now, but at that time, that was a big freaking deal. But again, by him not getting multiple finals appearances and the way they lost to the Rockets, his shortcomings is what works against him as far as that, because he's one of the greatest players, like talent wise. Randy Moss. If you know me. If you don't know me, you'll ask, and I don't mind filling you in. Yeah. It means my name, Johnny D, and I don't know who you are, but that means my name. And I'm a Mister, so you put the Max, so that's my name. Um, Randy Moss, because he was a freak of an athlete. He was the most graceful receiver I ever saw, and unique talent. Jerry Rice was still in the top dog, but that's a whole nother argument thing. But Moss was probably, you know, he just didn't finish. He had some bummy issues. Elway. Favre, though he got all those MVPs, Elway was more clutch, determined. Right on, JD. Pleased to meet you too, Johnny D. Um, Elway went to Super Bowls without a Terrell Davis. Led drives, beat up against different teams. Was a great quarterback and a very effective quarterback era, mind you. But he always came up big, you know. So I'm taking Elway. He moved me more. I don't think so. I like Megatron a lot. He was athletically freak, strong, agile, but he didn't Jerry Rice was like a revelation with that rack. Just take that 5 yard and go. T.O. had that motor. Moss had that ballet type of thing, that trajectory. And Megatron was athletic and a freak too, but those three were just on another level to me. The fact that he led that 98-yard drive against Cleveland, which I'll never forget, and he was always tough. I mean, Elway was tough. I didn't like him at first. I used to think he was a diva because he didn't want to play for the Colts and he pouted and mouthed and all that. But he went out there to Mile High and did his thing. And he was a winning quarterback. He was great. He just went against better teams in the Super Bowl. That's all. Well, because by default it's Peyton Manning. By default, as you know. Um, if I had to pick the GOAT running back, it's either OJ or Jim Brown. Barry's in my top 5 though. And OJ was pre-Barry Sanders. Look him up. The same jukes, the moves, the bounces. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, that's a good question. Talent wise, you gotta go with the Cowboys. Because even though Elway and but I do think that Elway, Sharp, Ed McCaffrey, and Terrell Davis would have been something. But the Cowboys had better talent though. It's hard to argue against that. But that would have been a real good Super Bowl though. A big Moon fan. No. Earl had been traded to New Orleans by the time he got there in '84. I lived in Houston, Texas back then. And Earl was about a couple years removed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was in New Orleans. That's where Kenny Stabler was. And he was removed. And it wasn't the same. He missed out. See, because the NFL was racist. And people want to know they didn't put black quarterbacks. That was like 40 years ago. A lot of people don't know that. This, what you've seen, is modern. Let me put to you like this. If you have a father who's about a little over 40 and you ask him about black quarterbacks in the NFL, that's what he saw as his first, probably with Moon. This just a reality check for you. This ain't, you get spoiled by what you see today, Mahomes and all that. If wasn't that long ago. No. Gale says is one of my top 5 backs. Yeah, but Earl Campbell took a pound and he was a big boy. And he ran hard. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of streaming options today. It's a different ball game. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Gale Sayers is one of my favorites. That man was something else. Kickoff returns. That guy was scary, versatile, had agility. Scary. But yeah, Ted's right with yeah. Mahomes' success is what's changed it. That's why you get Michael Penix in Atlanta with the veteran guy, the Alex Smith thing to Mahomes. These GMs and these owners don't want to get caught not looking no more. Two different types of fighters, but if I had to pick, Hagler moved me more. Roy Jones was great, but Hagler moved me more though. But great question though. And I have mentioned that I love boxing back in the day when it mattered. When it mattered. But I liked Hagler a lot. He was tough. He probably will be. I know I saw them snickering and laughing and cracking jokes, but I'm telling you right now, I know what Atlanta did though. You're not being ignored. You didn't answer me a question. You said something about a PO box and you mentioned something about stream, so you have to ask a question. So it's not being ignored. I did acknowledge you, rock and roll fan. You just have to I heard what you said. I don't remember the part about the P.O. box, but I remember talking about the streaming. And so the cast just asked questions. That's all it is. Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, um, 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 Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Lennox Lewis, Joe Frazier, Jimmy Young. Pretty much the typical guys. Mike Tyson, you know. No one gets ignored. And Holyfield, yeah. Holyfield's in there too. No one gets ignored on here. If you ask questions and you say something, I'll respond. It's only if you don't and you make a statement, I have to. And so if you ask me a question, so no one's being ignored. I don't ignore people. I ignore trolls and I get them out of here. But if you ask me a question, probably so. Probably so. I don't see an act two there. You ask my favorite heavyweight boxer of all time would be Ali. My favorite. I'd say out of him, Ali, Jack Johnson, and George Foreman. Probably my three favorites. Those are my three favorites. It's hard to. Ali, I always hold in special regards. It's about as believable as Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Well, we'll see what happens with Wilder. I wasn't really. I don't know. Last thing, again, I got to see what if guys fighting where they stack up. I don't know. I do think the thing with this is just, you know, I'm not taking it serious. But I know cats need a bag and they do whatever they got to do. But I'm not taking it serious though. Jake Paul will fight everybody though. He wants to be credible. And Mike Tyson will oblige. So Bron Lara was something else. That takes me back. That's a name you ain't heard in ages. No, no. Not when you got a defense, not when you got a skill set. So if you got a skill set, for instance, right, that someone else can't do and they can't take it from you, is that overrated? I mean, like, say, for instance, you can drive stick shift and someone in your neighborhood couldn't. They all learn how to drive automatic. Does that make them? I mean, they got a skill set. His skill set is defense. I have not seen another fighter in my lifetime that has a better defense set than what Floyd had. It depends on how the strategy goes. I think Sugar Ray would figure him out, but Mayweather's defense is so unique. He has a way of just kind of putting you to sleep, you know. You jab at him, you really don't get him. He's figured out an intriguing method. That would be a great fight. Sweet Pea was nice. He was from Virginia. I used to live in Virginia. And I still remember when he put a clinic on Caesar Chavez and didn't get the decision. Sweet Pea was the truth. Sometimes I think they kind of took him as a prankster because he was kind of playing around, but he could fight. But yeah, the Sugar Ray Mayweather fight would probably be one of the greatest battles in any sport. Because one thing about Sugar Ray Leonard, he studied you. He figured you out, tendencies, one way or the other. But Mayweather, though, his mental strategies, it's so unique. And being at the age, well, I say Paul can fight a bit, but at the age he is, I don't know what Tyson. I mean, I'm not taking it serious. Let's just keep it 100. I am not taking that fight serious. I'm about as serious about that fight as I was about Kendrick Lamar and Drake having beef. Not taking it serious. But I understand why cats are doing it. Trump by default. The hate is real, and people want, they want what they want samey. If people had common sense, they wouldn't vote for neither one of them because it ain't gonna make no difference. They both two white boys who are old and out of touch, but people want that Archie Bunker type. So take your pick. I always say reparations. I don't care about neither one of them. There's nothing there. Well, you know what? If he first of all, sometimes when people who are act like they're oblivious to getting buttered up, they can't be that dense. He can't possibly be that dense. I mean, he has no chance at anything, you know. I mean, the cat has to know his limitations, but I guess he don't. I mean, but I haven't watched that. But they have to know he's a clown. I mean, they have to. He has to know that they trolling him. He can't be that dense, but he could be. He could be. I don't want to put nothing past him because I might make him more intelligent than he is. Yeah, you're trying to get deep now, but yes, I did. I heard about that. That was before. That was 2 years after Brown versus Board of Education. That's after what Thurgood Marshall and all that. So there's always some kind of stuff that was going on. I heard about that. Hmm. But anyway, I think they'll give it to Trump. I think that's what they want to push the agenda. He might still get locked up though. So we'll see. Floyd and Tyson got some animosity because Tyson doesn't really respect Floyd and Floyd doesn't respect him. So there's some more tension there. Two different types approach to the fight game. But like I said, Floyd was great for what he did. And as a businessman, probably the smartest boxer I've ever seen, if you want my honest opinion. He took it to a whole nother level as far as being a businessman because he made a fighter look really intelligent, you know. So yeah. Um yes and no. Yes, he was over and he was underrated. I'm gonna break this down. He was underrated because he dominated in a way that you haven't really seen before or since in a way. And he had a real mental intimidation. Overrated because he was a one trick pony. If he couldn't hit your pressure point, hit your temple, hit that shot on you, he always used to say, everybody can give a punch, but man can take it. But when guys fought back on him, he wasn't conditioned long winded to fight past 5, 6 rounds. So therefore, his most of his fights was 3 or 4 rounds, 2, 3 rounds, get you in, get you out. And it became this mythical figure that he became so, but then it didn't age well. And I know him going to prison slowed it down, but he didn't even look that well before he went in. The Razor Ruddock fight, obviously the Buster Douglas, it just, no. But if he plays actually a full quarter, we might make a case. I don't expect much for him. I don't. I think he's on the wash side. And remember, he got hurt by an invisible sack and he fell on his butt and he was out for the whole year. So you tell me, does that look like a comeback? How about can you walk? Can you actually go through the motions and the cadence? I don't give him a lot of hope with the Jets. I don't think it would have made a difference. I think that when he fought Razor Root that fight, and obviously with Buster, he looked vulnerable. He wasn't the same fighter 1991. He wasn't the same fighter. And he lost a couple years of it from prison, but I don't think it would have made a difference. I don't think his skill sets was as up as sharp. When he fought Holyfield the first time, he just didn't he couldn't match him. Holyfield was a match for him style wise. And I had seen him looking kind of like he was kind of on the downside with the Ray Ruddock fight. I remember that fight. No, because unlike Brett Favre, he had something in the tank. Aaron just doesn't look he's got much in the tank, to me. And the difference between Favre and Rodgers is this: Rodgers is 3-1 better talent wise, but Favre mentally was better. He was better. He was a better. He adapted. It should already have been classified as semi-pro. They've been pimping them kids for years. All them bowl games getting $10, $20 million. Even if you play in the Chitlin Bowl, they get $4 million. You win 6 games. What kind of plantation is that? Yeah, it's a semi-pro. Favre winning versus Brady's Bucks at home. I don't understand the question. I try to understand the question. Oh, yeah. See, this is the thing about it. Ted brings a good point. And Aaron is a better talent, but Brett Favre figures out how to win that game. Yeah, he got scared of the end zone. He had a chance to run or make a dive, and he got scared by he got kryptonite by the 3 yard line. Yeah, and that's been the knock against him. Talent is now you know how some people like to hate on Shaq and say you underachieved on. Aaron Rodgers is the true king of underachieving. Are you kidding me? He got one ring for all them MVPs he got, but he didn't dominate like he should have. He should have dominated. He was in a soft butt division and pretty much could have ran roughshod in the NFC and didn't do it. So to me, that's underachieving. He sure got a lot of mouth though. He pop up. At least in Brett Favre's case, he went to 2 straight Super Bowls. Well, that was because he was a gunslinger. He was that's how he played. Yeah, that was the most embarrassing. And that's where Aaron Rodgers loses points with me. Marino was a beast. Marino's one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen. Even as a Bills fan, I got to give it up to Dan. Dan was bad. I was a bad boy. Had an arm for days. Yeah, I understand you, Ted. You're right. Especially when you consider what Seattle did in that Super Bowl. I don't think if Aaron gets that Super Bowl that they get cute by the goal line. I just don't. And I know that your coach wouldn't pull no mess like Pete Christmas Carroll did. That's the worst Super Bowl loss I have ever seen in my life. The worst. It's hard to believe that's coming up on 10 years. Wow. And they never were the same again. Years because he actually was a strong back and he was a dependable back and he had to do a lot of things to make that offense work. He was really that good. As a matter of fact, if the Bills win that Super Bowl against the Giants, he's the MVP of that Super Bowl. He was great in that first Super Bowl, you know. No, I was mad with y'all because why didn't Aaron? Aaron was scared of Richard Sherman. He didn't look him off. Aaron played bad in that game. So I remember I came back from church that night and I turned my TV on. All I saw was that ball in the air, and Rodgers had threw that bomb, and then you got that touchdown. I never forgot that feeling. I was like, wow, what a way to come in. That was something else. I just came back from a service, and I was looking at it like, wow, he did it again. He could throw them haymakers. That's what Aaron does better than any quarterback I've ever seen, probably. Throw them deep haymakers. He's known for that. It's just that when he's flustered and he's mad and he's playing like crap, he'll throw some picks. Yeah, he do. That's what makes him so frustrating. Because we should be talking about him in the same conversation with Mahomes, with Brady, with Montana. We not. Now we're even close. Talent wise, he's in there, but the results nowhere near. Nowhere near. And I still remember when Troy Aikman and uh, 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 Joe Buck slurping him like it's Brokeback Mountain. Oh God. Yeah, yeah, that's true. What's up? How you doing? Renew. How you doing? How you doing? Well, I think no. What happened with Ted, to answer your question, is because he didn't get drafted by the 49ers. That's where it came from. If you want to know the honest truth, he took it personal that his hometown didn't pick him. That's why he got really in his ways. He observed a lot from Brett Favre, but he was really took it personal that he didn't get to be drafted by the 49ers. Because remember, he was late in the pick and he took it personal. That's how he was always the way he was. What about Alex Smith? What about Alex Smith? Yeah, he did. Alex was a good quarterback. I remember Mr. Isotone, his hands was too small or too big. It took him a while before he adapted the plan, and he would turn into be a good quarterback. He had a good career. He lost his job to Kaepernick too. He was always known as the guy the backers came to replace. And he had the audacity a year ago to try to clown Tom Brady for his success or some mess. And I was like, you need to shut up. Um, what they gotta do is protect Jokic. They gotta find a way to score. Michael Portis Jr., Jamal, Gordon have to score. KCP has to show up, get a heartbeat, and actually put some points up. They have to get their bench in. They have to manipulate Minnesota. They cannot let Minnesota gang up on traps. They got to figure out a way to make them respect their guys. That's the problem that Denver's facing. Jokic gets all the respect because he's bad like that and he puts everybody in position. But if they start doing that stunt run at him, and they gotta, yeah, and they gotta get Cat off the 3-point shot. They gotta make Cat actually work himself into a post. I don't care if Cat is scoring 20 points under the rim all night. Don't let him sit up there and camp on top of the key shooting at three. They got to make them move. He has to wake up. They have to put points up. That's their problem. They in this slow motion, feel like it. We'll turn it on. This ain't no all-star game. You can't wait to let this ain't the Lakers. You fool around and wait the last 5 minutes against Minnesota, you be down by 30 points. They'll knock your socks off. You gotta you they've been sleepwalking. Yeah, I remember, but that ain't gonna happen tonight because Ant wasn't in the discussion with that's not the same. He can outplay him, but it wasn't the same. Ant will make a statement if he goes all the way and then come back next year. But it's not no the statement is the team tonight. That's the statement. Hakeem and them having to be playing, and you make a case that those two were two of the best going at the time. There is no Ant's not in the same tier with Jokic right now. He's on the come up, and he looking like he's gonna be that dude. So, but Minnesota can make a statement tonight. He been due for because he ain't scored 20 points in a week yet. So he due for something. That's the only way they're gonna win. If they get up there and they don't come correct, they butt gonna be in real trouble. You know, I'm mad because they made me look embarrassing because I thought that was gonna be a heavyweight division and it's turned into a one-sided affair. But we still might, it ain't until Minnesota go up 3-0, then we can say that for sure. But I do know one thing. Of all the teams I've seen so far, the Timberwolves look like the best team I've seen, bar none. He is better than that. Don't insult the man like that. He's been a league MVP. The White never had Jokic's skill set for offense. So stop, please. The White never learned how to put the ball on the ground and actually score. He had a little hook and dunks. He never actually had a pure shot. It happens. It's a different era. That's a different era. Let me put some stuff in perspective. He ain't had a Kobe Bryant or Dwayne Wade type player to play alongside of, which shouldn't cancel, but it did. It's political. He never did, but Jamal Murray ain't considered on the same level as Jokic, okay? And Murray, I think Murray's arguably the most underrated player going today, but Murray don't really even go to the next level to the postseason. So that's two strikes right there, okay? And then after that, nobody else on Denver could get arrested outside of Denver for nobody else. No one wanted Aaron Gordon. No one saw that. Michael Porter Jr. is still a work in progress, but he's not quite that dude consistently. And KCP was a second tier sidekick dude. So what else you got? Jokic is that guy. Oh, he's better than Dwight. Dwight's a better defensive player, but that's all Dwight's got. He never had Jokic's offensive arsenal. Never. Never. They do. Good call there, Ted. That might be the most underrated reply of the night. They are missing it more than they think because they're not getting that juice, and they are a step off. They're missing that winder. It's noticeable. The Dwight doesn't function. You can replace him. You can put, listen, you could put any guard. I can name a lot of people you could put with Dwight. Dwight never worked like that. Look, I like Dwight. Dwight could make a case as top 75. I ain't no problem with that on the lower end. But Dwight never learned how to play offense. Had he ever learned to actually have a shot, we may have a different discussion about him. He was never that dude. And so when he played with James Harden, that was real noticeable. He just didn't really, he learned how to shoot a three now. It's sad. There's people always get into different situations. I'll probably do a big video about Glenn Davis. It's a sad reality, but it happens. I mean, people just, different things happen to different people for 4 years, but it's not the end of the world until you put thoughts and prayers with the brother. He did. Sometimes it's not the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes the guy comes back stronger, mentally and spiritually more aware. He just made a mistake. Cats get into different things. But it's sad though. It's a sad. You gotta be careful out here in these streets and that money and how you living because they be watching you and someone will snitch you out. It's a sad reality. But I'm gonna put prayers for the brother though. Yeah, it's not something that I really like to. I like Big Dog, and I just it's a sad situation. That's all I can say. And if I do a video about it, I just want to emphasize that cats be doing different things, and they go through different things, and you know, I don't think you have nothing to worry about, and I don't think that it would be that big of a thing. You know, I think nobody's gonna, you know, and they probably won't even put them in a real, even just make a medium to low risk situation. You probably end up doing the same kind of prison situation that Wesley Snipes did. So, you know, but the main thing he comes out better for it, and depends on who he played with. When you ask me about guys going back in time to answer your questions, it always depends on the teams he played with. Because I'll give you this, and I don't know if you were alive or well to understand that. Yeah, well, Michael Vick, he ended up playing quarterback for both squads in the federal prison too. Remember that story? And Tony Dungy went to go visit him. Jokic against someone like Big Country would have been interesting back in the 90s, but Big Country wasn't as versatile as Jokic. But it would have been interesting. The teams you got depends on what he's dealing with. Jokic with McDice and Madu Raul would have been dangerous. They win the championship in the 90s with that squad. And Hornacek too. They win the chip. Jokic would have been hard to stop. I'll say this: I think he wins with the right situation because I know Sabonis would have won if Avidas had been playing. Oscar Robinson for me all day. Tougher era, better score, better rounded player. No questions asked. And I'm not taking nothing from Russ because Russ, kept it going, but Oscar was a better all around player. Oh, yeah, vastly underrated. Again, unlike JJ Redick, 60s guys who scored 25, 27, 30 points a game with no 3-point line, hand check, physicality. Are you kidding me? You were a beast. And he had handles, and he could drive, and he could use his hands. He could shoot. Yeah, there's no questions there. The underrated reply of him is also he was working for Donald Sterling. That was his only job offer he had from the NBA. And he was calling Sterling the racist 40 years ago. And David Stern didn't do nothing. Okay. So, yeah. That he had to put up with that crap too. Yeah, because when he got out to be a general man, it was only the Clippers that was offering him a gig. The Lakers didn't offer him a gig. And he saw some real hardcore stuff. He talked about it. He had the receipts. They never listened to him. That's why I don't Stern and Silver and all. When I bring up race about the pro sports, I be meaning it too. I like Jokic a lot. Yeah, it didn't last long. I like Jokic a lot, but you gotta remember Sabonis did that to Shaq. Now, granted, Sabonis was pushing 58 when he did it, but still, they all pulled the zone out on Shaq. But when Shaq posted you up, he was gonna burn you. And again, depends on what era we're talking, depends on what style. Yeah, well, you saw it with your own eyes 10 years ago in the playoffs with the Clippers and the Warriors when they were going to put the jerseys in the middle of the court. You remember that scene? Shaq era against Jokic would have been compelling because anywhere from Orlando to Miami, especially Orlando to LA, that would have been interesting. That would have been an interesting battle. But Shaq would have beat him. But Shaq would get him. He'd get him. He'd wear him down. Depends on what. So the '06. He'd be great, but he wouldn't be able to shoot those threes. Again, it depends on Larry Brown. Depends on how what they you're looking at him through 2024 eyes and lenses. Go back to '04, '06, and that I don't know, or 2001. I don't know. Because I mean, at that time, you had Sabonis who'd shoot the three and Rick Smith. You had some guys who could shoot outside. But Jokic with Iverson, I don't know, because Iverson ball hogs so much. I don't know. He could play defense on him, but you got to remember something. Is Jokic the same player he was then? See, when you make up these cases, right, you got to take consideration what he's become the last 2 or 3 years. He's gotten better since then. They weren't the same team. He's been a different animal the last 2 or 3 years. Jokic was not the same player as he is now. 2 or 3 years can change. Well, again, what you're asking me is how, like, Vlade Divac could pass and could shoot. He wasn't Jokic. But again, going against Shaq, and depends on how the fouls are called. And Jokic is a big boy. So that would be an interesting battle. But Shaq's going to get that, though. Actually, with the way Floppy flopped all the time, I would love to have wonder would have been like a real center who didn't do so much acting, how that would have been. Because Floppy was a heck of an actor. Oscar-worthy performances, falling and frailing. I'm surprised that he don't walk around with a pimp cane or a walker. All that acting he did when he was with Sacramento. Great actor. Great actor. And the rest would go for it too. I had more respect for Scott Pollard than I did for Floppy. But I will say this about Floppy Divac. That turkey could pass. Yeah, when you know how to act, especially when you go against someone like Shaq. And LeBron does a great job of it. They flop like they're penguins out of water. You don't play them in Denver though. And to say someone outplays somebody, what does that really mean in English when one guy's got a ring and the other guy can't get out the second round? And in this case, this year, not the first round, or can't stay healthy. He don't have to. He beats you with his offense. It's the Peyton Manning logic or Steph Curry logic. He doesn't have to. If you can't stop him from doing what you do, you get frustrated. He doesn't have to. You end up wearing yourself out. He doesn't have to put himself through that. He does enough of getting his rebounds, outlet passes, his steals, his assists. When was he have to? He doesn't have to. And you can sit here and make the case that Embiid can hang with him all that, but Embiid ain't got the hardware he's got. Well, that's nothing new. They learned it from Europe, though. Soccer, they did that over there with Beckham and all that. That's where it came from. But football, that's where they learned it from. Because on the soccer field, cats flop. That's where it came from. Braun can get some love from stateside, but I know where it came from. Ginobili and them were doing it before Braun was a thought. And you got to know how to do it in rhythm. Rodman did it in the 90s, but it came from Europe. It's a European move. You got to know how to take those charges or take that acting. Yeah. Nothing new. It's just somebody comes along who's popular and they get the credit for it. But anyway, he doesn't have to guard anybody because the reality is his offense is his defense. It's just like Steph. And eventually he wears you down. So sometimes your best offense is your best defense if you know how to do that. You can do that in basketball. It's hard to do that in football. I think Mahomes is learning it though. Well, Gobert doesn't really have to score. All he has to do is basically get near 10 points. He'll get his double rebounds. He'll get some blocks. He'll get some steals. As long as he can fill a stat sheet, stay out of foul trouble, that's all he got to do. And then he can freestyle and roam. He'll be fine. Gilbert always got a lot to say for a guy who was a never was himself. That turkey spends a lot of time yapping. I told you he's got that Kanye West mouse syndrome. And it's eventually he says something that'll actually they pick it up and make it run. Um, we all did, but who's laughing now? Um, Jalen, Jalen. Well, that's a different type of defensive player. Rasheed Wallace was doing it, and I'm gonna do a video about it. My take on it. Matumbo did move me more as a defender, but Gobert plays that side role real well, and he just catch you with it. The Kimby was like he was working. I don't know. I don't understand the logic. You know, I'm not that big on Gobert like that, but he's playing good. He's good when he, you know, I'm respecting him more now because of Ant. That's why. I never bought him as a second option or that alpha. With Jalen Brunson, because he's not, it's workmanlike and it's really hard work. But if he gets that team pulls off an upset or something, that will fall on deaf ears. Let him get past Indiana and they get in the Eastern Conference Finals and he wins and goes to the, they gonna know who he is because he's in the right city to blow up. I still think he needs a sidekick that can score with him. You know, they need a 3-man rotate. Yeah, but if I was gonna say anybody was like Jerry West type, I'd say OKC's GM. That's the team that really built from the bottom. They do that every year. They always get the type draft picks. Jerry West wouldn't embarrass himself and waste his time going on that corny show. He wouldn't. He's very familiar with Skip. He wouldn't waste his time. He's too classy for that crap, and he talks too much. He knows what Skip's got to do to try to sell and do everything. He wouldn't waste his time. Underrated defender of all time? No, 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 no. I can't give you that. He was a great defender, but I wouldn't call him of all time. Because Rick Barry don't talk like the white boys talk, and that's why. Yeah, I already did a video about that. If you ever watch my videos, I did it. I gave my take about that. Yeah, Rick Barry is not going to sit there and tap for them. That's not going to be what he's going to do. He tear up and the Skips behind. That's who would go on undisputed. But nobody won't touch Rick Barry. Mm-mm. Well, I know Shaq, but Shaq's no different than other big men. I mean, be it Chamberlain, Kareem, they always had some insecurity about because the next one was coming and they always had comments, but that's their position. But he also was riding for Shea for quite a while. He wasn't just some Johnny come lately. He really believed Shea was the best. And, now Kareem doesn't want to wait. Nobody, let me just say this. Nobody that's worth their weight in sand is going to waste their time with Skip. Paul Pierce needs a job, and he was doing media. But most of these cats ain't going to sit there with no Skip. Well, I'll tell you what he meant. He knows that it's not necessarily that he had to do anything strange for the change. Maybe he did. But he did have to sell himself out because I go back to 2010 when he was on CBS NFL Today. There was no buzz for him. He was dry. He was dry. Fast forward 5, 6 years, and after that scandal with that chick died down and he got cleared, then he merges up with Skip. Well, Skip was like, he was like, Skip, 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 because Skip had cachet. And so it's Marcellus Wiley. I don't know if you watched the Marcellus Wiley on Vlad TV. The story goes, they always get the white cat to be the driver or get the black sidekick, but they're never going to get bigger than them, usually. They bring them on, protege. So he was following in his role like a lapdog until Skip went races on him and basically, you know. So Shannon had to have done something. And again, the business is like that. People know people out in the streets. Shaq knows about how Shannon got down. Shannon was not this slurping LeBron James love fest. He changed. He pulled his coat. He's open and he's not. He's open in the sense that he will defend what he likes and say it. But he always talk about the black woman who raised him, but it's like she didn't really instill, there were certain things that I'm just kind of like, but the thing is that they all say on the same thing. They all go, I didn't realize until I had a black co-worker. Tony Kornheiser said that about Michael Wilborn. Skip said the same thing about Shannon. I don't watch him at all no more. I mean, I watch the low lights because I'll turn a clip on just to see what corniness that Keyshawn is saying or Rachel Nichols is saying something. And Paul Pierce, I'll watch if he's on, but the show sucks. It's hard on the eyes. There is no credibility. They are talking about the same old tired topics, Lakers and the Cowboys or something, and that's like Fox is stuck on this demographic. Yes, I do too. Because the days of watching, yeah, yeah, the days of watching regular, shows and stuff is obsolete almost. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube, and it's just bad. Me too. There ain't no more TV no more. That days is gone. It's gone because it's too corporate now. Yeah, it's too corporate. It's too much politics. They want to control what they put on there, and they got these old lame TV host shows. You have to send me the apps that you get to watch them on. I sure would like that. Do that. Send it to me. I need to get learn on that. Do food. Okay, let me write that down. Write that down. Thank you. As a Buffalo Bill fan, because sometimes them games, I'll write that down. Do food. Write that down. Do food app. Okay. That's cool. Thank you. But I'm not going to waste my time with a whole lot of games, mind you. Some of them games ain't worth talking about. Some of the NFL was some lowlights. I got on more than enough I need to watch, but thank you. But I love YouTube more than any other. I don't like regular TV no more. Yeah. Now that's something I don't could care less. I don't have to watch no. The NBA don't really, you know, they don't really do much for me. I ain't missing much with that. Most of my basketball games are pretty lame, being honest with you. Yeah. Even the in season tournament games when they got that Walmart banner, you watched it on there too? Okay. Mm. Yeah. They sure were. And then the mayor of LA said, "Whoa, at least we got that." And they got clowned her. She almost lost her position that night. So yeah, you don't really know about your Laker basketball when you're getting excited about that. But bless her soul. Because that was the championship they were gonna win, and I knew that. I already knew that. I knew it was as good as it's gonna get. I knew it. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Tampa Bay Buccaneers had their little parade, but Brady almost threw the trophy in the water because he was drunk. Yep. He was wobbling. But anyway. Well, that's the last parade you're gonna have. You didn't get it, so you ain't gonna have another one. You ain't getting another one. Now with that squad you got. Hmm. I don't see nothing coming. You see what? You see what? I don't see no Laker parades coming. I don't see nothing in LA coming. Maybe the Dodgers. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, the birdie roast. Oh yeah. Well, thanks. I didn't like the roast. There wasn't nothing to it, but the Giselle thing is what I tripped out on. Cause she's like, "You're divorced. What you think he's gonna say? What do you think? You're fair game." I didn't really want to talk about the Brady but roast thing because if I did do a video about it, that whole thing with it did go too far. It's tacky. I think it went too far in terms of just being cursing and all that other stuff, which was unnecessary. And then, because you're gonna always have that elephant in the room about Brady, Belichick, and Kraft. And you know how Kraft feels about Brady, so I just think it's corny. But I had no problem with them roasting on Giselle. She was for the streets. The heck you gonna tell them what they can say and can't get attitude? You up there messing around with your yoga man. What you think's gonna happen? But most times when people have roast, you do get ate up. Sometimes these cats just be vulgar to be vulgar, though. I don't necessarily think that they had their saying much, though. Giants, of course. Giants, of course. And I'm not even a Giants fan, but of course, that's a no brainer. Duh. I mean, Eli, you got to remember something. You talking about a guy who is maligned, and most people in my eyes say, look at him as a average, mediocre regular season quarterback. And then all of a sudden he gets in the postseason and he becomes Popeye and he gets the spinach. And all of a sudden he just gets tuned in to make the right plays. And come on now. You better come up with a 2010 Packers against somebody else. Nothing where Eli is concerned. You're not winning that argument. Because every time I look at Eli Manning and his successful runs, I'm thinking, was this real? Was he on drugs? Because I look at him during the regular season, he just looks ordinary. I mean, who else do you know has got two Super Bowl rings? MVPs only because he plays in New York, and that people still question if he's Hall of Fame worthy. Because, yeah, so of course it's him. Steelers were more impressive. The Broncos defense was more impressive, but the Steelers team was more impressive. Because without Von Miller, we're not even having that discussion now, are we? So it's clearly that Steelers team. Von was just on another level. But and I think when you pick teams that you didn't see coming out or a quarterback like that, it's kind of like when the Raiders beat Washington 40 years ago. Good question. I think the Patriots. I don't think the Broncos defense was going to necessarily stop them. And you had to play an incredible, great game. And I just don't know if you could have gotten by. I don't know if you could have stopped Randy Moss like that. Just don't know. Because that offense was on fire except for that Super Bowl or that AFC Championship game. But I think they'd have been built up for TD. Packers. Because Desmond Howard was a difference maker. Reggie White was hitting that line. And Tony Freeman. And the 99 Rams, it took every ounce to win that Super Bowl. That game was close. Packers just Packers looked a little more free and easier because the Rams got exposed against Tampa Bay. They barely got that, so I think the Packers get them. That's a good one, though. Oh yeah, I got a basketball video I'm doing tomorrow, so be on the lookout for it. It was entertaining to say the least. I'm going to give it to. Hmm. That's a tough one because they both had great defenses and they played very hard. Um, I think by a field goal, I'm still gonna come back with the Giants. The Bucks was impressive against the Raiders, but it was like the Giants again against the Patriots. But that Giants defense really went against a high potent offense that was better than that Rich Gannon led team. The 49ers. They ain't losing that game. They ain't losing that game. Ricky Waters ain't fumbling. They ain't losing that game. They had to go against a tough Dallas team. And one thing about the 49ers back then, they were battle tested. They weren't going to lose that game to no Kansas City, especially Mahomes throwing 2 picks. And he ain't throwing that haymaker. He ain't getting away with that against that squad. Like you always say about Kyle Shanahan's, who shenanigans is becoming Fisher Price. So how more chance he's going to keep giving this turkey to blow Super Bowls and NFC Championship games. That 49 team would have won. George Seifert had a incredible squad. I'm not saying that Young matches Mahomes' skill set, but the teams of talent, when you had Deion Sanders too, they beat in Kansas City. Old 49ers will win that. That's a close one. I'm going to say Seahawks. I gotta say Seahawks. Oh, Bo. Dion had more success because he stayed healthy, but Bo was a freak. Of those two, Bo was a freak. And I love Dion big time. Dion was an incredible football player, and he's like in my top 4 or 5 greatest football players ever argument. But Bo was an athlete. It was Bo. Bo. You couldn't do what he could do. He was a freak. Dude was a freak. He was a freak. Well, Dion was a special talent, yes. I don't know. That's just too many. I mean, you know, all the cats that were associated with the West Coast offense, there you go. Because which Andy Reid was part of, so there you go. I mean, you think about the most successful organizations and players, there you go. Yeah, Dion was a special talent. I love watching him in the 90s. He's probably my favorite player to watch in NFL because he was prime time. He was pre-merch and everything you see today. Yeah. I mean, everything. He was one of those guys. He was just he had that but you asking me out of him and Bo was a better all around player. Because Bo's as a running back, as a baseball player was scary. His name was Sherm Lewis. And he has never gotten his due. And you should Google him. Never got his due. He was the catalyst. Never got his due. That's why I have a hard time when these people come at me about this and that because it doesn't go the way it's supposed to. And Sherm Lewis was that dude. Black man, black person in the kitchen. Cat who stands out in the front gets all the credit and all the money. That's how it always goes. Sherm was that dude. Daryl Green. Daryl Green was a freak. That guy was running like that for 20 straight years. And you could run down there, Tony Dorsett and Eric Dickerson in their peak and their prime. I don't need to say anymore. Daryl Green was that dude. Yep. Yeah. Otis Blackwell wrote all those songs for Elvis. Yeah, because Daryl was a low key brother and he didn't make a lot. He didn't have a lot of hype. But the people who knew how talented he was, they knew. Oh yeah, Sherman Lewis should have had about 5 coaching jobs. Because I mean, he was the mastermind behind all that stuff. But again, when I come out and talk about how I feel about that stuff, you know, I know falls on deaf ears. You gotta remember something. NFL ain't that progressive as you think it is. They just been black quarterbacks have been dominant in the NFL the last 10 years. Well, since 2012, so the last 12 years. Okay, you've had one set of black head coaches in the Super Bowl, first time ever, 2007 with Dungy and Lovey. Think about that. Tomlin won a ring the next after. How often do you see it? I don't have to, when I talk about, yeah, Daryl was bad. Daryl Green was bad. Shoot, like I said before, you had to be there to see a guy running down Tony Dorsett and Eric Dickerson. That's insane. That's insane. Because if you know how quick those guys were bar burners, nobody ever ran down the sidelines smoother than Tony Dorsett from my eyesight. And Dickerson was like a bull when he got going. He was gone. He ran them both down. So, all right. Yeah, he was ran out. They wanted and he talked about it. He spoke about the racism. And he talked about what he went through. He went through it with Tom Landry. Went to Denver and retired, which was sad. Dorsett never got his due. He never had an offensive line. He had Ron Springs as his fullback. He never had what Emmett had. If he had what Emmett had, he probably had 20,000 yards rushing. I kid you not. Because Dorsett, you had to rope him to catch him. White boys back in that time, not the most progressive, if you will. I don't know if I want to call him that, but he wasn't the most progressive guy. You could kind of sense it, you know what I mean? Just gonna keep it 100. And let me add this caveat. Mike Dicker, right? And you know how Mike Dicker talks about Walter Payton never really talked about racism and all that. So how Mike Dicker carries himself as a pro-Trumper and kind of so there you go. Dicker was a Cowboys assistant coach. Played on the team, you know what I mean? Put that in your cap. And this was Texas too. Think about it. Think about it. And I know Thomas Hollywood Henderson. If you ever heard of Hollywood Henderson, look up his videos. He'll tell you about Landry. Look up Hollywood Henderson, number 56, linebacker. There you go. And I want to say Dwayne Thomas used to play for the Cowboys in the 70s, number 32. I think he didn't want to stand for the anthem or something. They ran him out. You have to look it up. Good thing you mentioned this because, again, this only happens on my live streams. I never do this in video. So if you want to get the best of me, even though you might like my regular videos, those are more geared commercially and they're more general. But on the live stream, I go extra because I talk about the tidbits and I give you the juice or some other things that I don't do because I don't have, because I'm not going to talk about Tom Landry in a video unless, of course, it comes out that there was something or something that I do a story. It's not something I do. Just like with sports, music, movies, and stuff. The live stream is where if you want we get the real nitty gritty because we have these freestyle discussions for other people who ain't used to it. Everything. All of it. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, everybody's talking about Kendrick and Drake. That's not really catching my eye, but you know, I talked about Taylor Swift's 1830 statement about she'd want to go back aside from the lyric about the racism, and I'm like, yeah, well, okay. No, I saw that crap about the Met Gala. I'm not interested in that garbage, but things come across me. I shared with you about what Richard Pryor's bodyguard said on Comedy Hype. You can watch that for yourself, where he said they wouldn't let Magic on the team. I thought that was one that caught my eye because Magic is very, he's all over X. He's always got something to say, but he never goes into anything controversial. Even though he was a controversial figure, polarizing, if you will. So, but yeah, if you come on here and you ask, we talk about different, I can go into those avenues. I just don't have it brought up. Because you got to remember, Dallas was Dallas. Dallas was America's team and the star, and you know, you know. And I know it messes Jerry Jones's ego in his head that he has to work with Dak Prescott. He always has to defend himself. They do have two black people that are important in their day-to-day wares, but he ain't trying to give no black head coaching job. And that whole thing with Denny Green 22 years ago was over the phone. He didn't really want to do that. And that's why Jason Garrett, think about it. Jason Garrett got to stay there for a happy clappy for how many years? Think about it. Think about it. And he was second string, third, backup quarterback who stayed right in the family. Think about it. And he goes get Meathead McCarthy. The proof is in the pudding. If you think these cats are what they are, they show you what they are. So there you go. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But you can see for your own sight. Cowboy fans never come at me and saying that they're progressive because they can't. Oh yeah, he let players. Well, they are wild. He'll work with anybody as long as you're winning. Because they brought back Ezekiel, which is hilarious to me. I did a video about that one. That was hilarious. Zeke got skinny in New England, but it didn't matter. He didn't do nothing behind Mac Jones, but he was costing them too much money and he wasn't a really good fit. But he's got tie-ins with Jerry. Jerry's gonna take care of him. Plus, the Ohio State kid, so he'll get him something. Oh yeah, well, Meathead is just that. He's a hired hand. He ain't got no spine. But I know one thing: stink it up this year, they gone. That's a fact. They got 1 year and that's it. And even if they do anything, unless they go to Super Bowl or something like that, I don't think they come back after next year. He's had enough of that. But see, the problem he runs into, nobody eventually ain't gonna want that job. Dak's done after this year if they don't do nothing. So, because the defense hates him, we got that on good authority. They don't like him, and they look at him like they look at Russell was looked at by the Seahawks. Mm, give me some examples, because every owner ain't the same, but the owners, it depends on who the coach is. For instance, Brady didn't get to do that in Tampa Bay, and what's a butt dogged him in the media. Now, that's because they're older and they know their window's closing, and they don't have anyone that's challenging them. Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, I'm looking at you too. They not saying nothing, but the team should be built around them, not KD and LeBron at this stage. So it's the dude who's considered the top dog that gets to say, not the dude who's supposed to actually be the top dog, if you understand what I'm saying. That is a call based on name, not who's the actual guy. That's the problem with both them situations. So I'm gonna go out in 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes before I go because I gotta go eat. But I wanted to address those two. KD did as LeBron did, but Booker and AD are the ones, they're in the bag too. They're culprits too. Big brother can't hold your hand when you could speak up. Booker could have said something about Frank Vogel, because Frank Vogel, a Booker's going to need that kind of a coach longer than KD will. And AD's going to need that ham longer than Braun. So I don't want him to come to Miami. He comes to Miami, he's going to score, but what's he going to do on defense? Who's going to feed him the ball? You know, got to bring somebody there that's a guard or something to complement, that'll actually complement that. They got to have consistency. They have continuity. They got to trim the fat. So I don't know, but I don't think it would work. I don't. I could be wrong. I just don't see it working because he had better opportunity in Brooklyn and a better opportunity in Milwaukee. I mean, in Phoenix. Kyrie, Harden, Beal, and Booker. Booker is a better scorer than Jimmy Butler ever was. That's a fact. So I think his best bet is going back to Golden State, or try to get to Oklahoma if he wants to play with a team that's on the come up, maybe something like that. But as far as leading a team or being the dude, that day's gone. He's stat padding at this stage. He didn't get weird. He got hurt. and he never was a leader. He never was an alpha. And the thing about playing with Curry is that he could hide behind an alpha and then flourish and stay in his cool mobile. He went to Brooklyn, it flopped by a toe on the line, and then he goes to Phoenix and it never was. So pillow to post with big name guys who can put up numbers, but you got to have an alpha there to cover him. Kyrie wasn't going to do it because he ain't that dude, and neither is Booker. Steph was the one that covered him better than anybody. I keep emphasizing how great Steph is as a team player and how you put you in your position, but you're seeing it with your own eyes. I ain't got to say no more about it. All right, I'm gonna give it a roll. Appreciate everybody that came through. We did this almost 2 hours tonight. No, he's got his rings. I'm not gonna start this first real ring, but he needs a ring to solidify himself in that next level of argument. He's got his rings. He was the best player on Golden State for that run. But the problem he run into is that people want to hold him. Can he get to by with something that he built? He can't. He's not that kind of player. He's a go along, get along kind of dude. That's the problem he runs into. And trying to appeal is hurting him. He was his best in Golden State, and it's coming to pass. All right. Appreciate everybody. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay warm, stay cool. Thank you always for coming through. Appreciate everyone that came through. God willing, I'm back in 24 hours. I catch you. And we're going to talk about tonight's game tomorrow. All right. I'm out. Peace.